Hey guys, my name is Jun,
My name is Anna.
and this is
Big
BJ
Podcast.
Podcast. Yes. Our intros. I'm sure you guys love it.
Yes, this is what they're here for. They're here for the intro.
Yes, totally. While we are talking about intro, let's talk
Yeah.
about introduction of our topic today.
Yes! Yes.
Wow.
Excellent. Today we are talking about Black Lives Matter. And why are we talking about that, June?
Because it's happening around the world, and instead of avoiding it, and we were very nervous about it. Me and Anna talked previously, and we agreed and we pushed it because it was happening to like our fellow friends. It's happening in our country, our state, and just everywhere. And instead of being silent, we want to highlight and the importance of it and how the privileged work of non-Black people and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, the discrimination they face about the police, and in the end, what can we do to help about it?
Yes. Okay, so this is a pretty serious topic today, and
Yes.
as Jean said, it's very pertinent. Although neither of us are Black, as you can obviously tell,
Yes.
that doesn't mean anything because, as you said, we want to be the best allies that we can be
Yes.
and do whatever we can do in this time, at this time.
Yeah, I want to talk about it because like as a gay person, how the gay rights movement started eventually was thanks to Black LGBTQTI people. So the first ever Stonewall riot like movement, it was a riot too. It wasn't a peaceful protest. Of course, there were peaceful protesters, but it all happened because it was led by Black people who are queer. And it started during the time even when the Black gays weren't allowed to enter white gay clubs because they were dirty, but they still fought for entire gay people's right by starting that protest. And that is what became known as Pride today, where it happens in Korea, Japan, Atlanta, Europe. So like the Black people were the pioneer of like a lot of civil rights movement for other people of color and also gay people's right. So like we have to do something about it. Of course, like we can't be quiet when they did so much for this country and in the world,
Oh my gosh, like I really got goosebumps hearing that. Like that's amazing. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people don't even realize how much like rich culture that
Yes.
Black people have brought to, well, other countries as well, but we're Americans, so specifically we're talking about America. But yeah,
Yes.
also the world. Like music, for example. That's a
Oh,
world thing. And a lot of people tend to separate the people from the music.
mhm.
And yeah, that's not right. And we're here to talk about it.
Yeah, because like Anna and I enjoy hip hop music and rap songs, and like we need to appreciate not just the musical elements, and we need to understand that like the culture and why they started rapping, how the hip hop movement eventually started, and it all ties with like the Black Lives Matter movement and the police brutality that people of color, especially Black people, has faced since actually the creation of America.
Yes. And I've watched like documentaries on like the start of hip hop and things, and it's very interesting like to
Yeah.
hear about all those things. And I think it's important to do your research on those things. This
Yes.
podcast in particular, so we definitely want to talk about a lot of things, but there's just so much to talk about that we've chosen some very specific parts of it. And
Yes.
we are not here to be your only source of information.
Yes.
So anything we say,
Mhm.
please feel free to
Mhm.
double check or triple check or do your research into this
Mhm.
matter as well. It's
Definitely.
important to do your own research, and also um, let's be kind in the comments as well. I hate
Yes.
that I have to say this, but we personally know someone who's received a lot of backlash for saying their opinions
Yeah.
about this matter, which, I mean, honestly, like you were saying earlier, if you lose subscribers or followers because they don't
Mm-hmm.
agree that people should have equal rights, then it's like, okay, bye bye. But
Mm-hmm.
it's still, um, we don't need that toxicity here.
Yeah.
I think also some people have very strong opinions, and maybe it's a little different than ours, but I think the most important thing here is to respect each other's opinions. And if you don't agree with them, then that's totally okay.
It's fine, but if you spread hate, like
Yeah,
unneeded hate or anything, then like it's our channel. So like
yeah.
it was nice meeting you.
Yeah,
But yeah,
nice not. Bye. Okay, bye.
yes. We'll definitely talk about that as well, like later in the show. This is a show. Sorry, guys, you must be serious. Ah, but
Yeah.
um, but let's talk about something that we know about and something we can actually talk about, which is like privilege. Um, we definitely have a privilege. I definitely think so. And what do you think is privilege to you? Like definition?
Okay. And I didn't like look this up, so I feel like privilege is having a sort of power or more rights over
Mhm.
other people for some reason, whether it's, I don't know. In this case, we're specifically talking about race, but it also plays into wealth, as we know with systematic racism.
Yes.
So, mm, mm,
Mm-mm-mm.
okay. Um, but yes, for example, I think you can tell if you're privileged if you are shocked by this situation that's happening. Because for Black people, this is something that they experience all the time. Very sadly, unfortunately, to say that, but
Yeah.
I mean, like there's parents who are teaching their children what to do, you know, if they get pulled over in their car or just walking down the street and there's a police officer interrogating them or something, telling their children what to do so they don't get killed by a police officer. Like
Yeah.
that, not having to tell your children that is privilege
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, and having no relation to the situation or feeling like you can just turn off to all of this, meaning if you turn off your social media, you turn off any news things, that you are now, you don't have to think about racism or any of those things. That is also privilege. You are
Yes.
a privileged individual.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't exactly a definition, but it's like
But
a general feeling.
yeah, you got it spot on. It's basically a special right or advantage or sometimes immunity granted to only to a particular group of people. In this instance, it's people who are of color, of race, especially a black person. You have to have that conversation. When was the last time that you recognized you had a privilege over other people?
Oh,
For me, I'll start so you can think about it. Was one of my friend Nia. I went to predominantly black college, which is Georgia State, and that's when I learned a lot about privilege that even I, as an Asian person, have over black people. When I was working at Sweet Hut, one of our employee, we'll call him 50 Cent. That's not his name, but it rhymes with it. So
okay.
he was working there and he was telling like me and my friend, my black friend, that, oh yeah, over the last weekend I went to smoke a pot with a bunch of my friends in a car and we got so high and so baked. But then like a police car came and reached over to us and said, hey, what are you boys doing? And then they were like, uh, I mean, it was obvious. It smells like weed, and everyone's high. So they were just like, "Oh," but then police was like, "It's okay. I understand. You boys have fun," and he left them, which was okay. I thought, okay, that's cool, police. But then they weren't black, right?
Mm.
So my friend Tia, that's not her real name. It rhymes with that. But Tia was like, "Oh my god, I thought your story was gonna go south because like that actually like similar story happened to my black friends and they got arrested and that would never happen to like any black people I know." And this was in like 2015, like still like late for me to discover this privilege, and I was like, "Whoa, it's literally same situation, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Same situation, people smoking pot but get caught by a police. If it's a bunch of non-black people, like then they don't get arrested, but if it was a black people, they got arrested. And this is, I'm sure there's many different situations that people can be like, oh, that can't be right, but there's too many example. Like a 12-year-old boy can like walk on a street playing with the toy gun in his neighborhood and he would get killed by police. This happened actually.
So sad. That is so sad.
So that's when I recognize like over time, like since then I've been, I guess like a term would be like woke or like more aware of that issue and trying to be more vocal about it. But what
So
about you?
that is interesting that you bring that up because I was looking up some statistics, and
Oh,
well, in school, talking about like prison, imprisonment, especially with drugs and things.
yes.
Um, so one thing, not having to do with drugs necessarily, but one thing is that Black students are more than 2 times likely to be
Mm,
arrested in school, and in general, it said 1 in 3 Black men
yeah.
are likely to be incarcerated at least once in their lifetime,
Mhm.
whereas white men, it's 1 in 17.
That's really
Is
low.
that crazy?
That's
Because
a, yeah.
another thing is, and obviously these percentages are changing. This is 2020. I don't even know what day it is. Is it, what day is it? June?
June 4th. Yes.
June, oh, June 5th for me, June 4th for you. Um, so in the population,
Yes.
how much, what percentage of the population is African American? So let's say 100% of the population, what percentage of the population is African American?
In America or I would say 52?
13.
13?
Yes, 13%.
But then they're like twice as more likely to get arrested
Mm-hmm.
than 1 in 17 white men.
Yes.
13% of population in America. Are you sure? Was
Yeah,
that really?
yes.
I thought
And
America.
again, you guys can double check these facts, okay? Don't be like, oh my God, you're so wrong, blah, blah. Okay.
Yeah, I believe you, but it's
Yes,
just like shocking. I was like, what?
yes, exactly. And I also found that most likely this is talking about like drugs too. It says that Black people are 20% more likely to be given prison time for the same exact crime that a white person would. 20% more likely to be given prison time for the same crime that a white person does. So going back to the white guys in the car, they're
Yeah,
if they were Black, they would be 20% more likely. I think actually with drugs, so it might change, but at a minimum, 20% more likely to have been arrested at
yeah.
the time or.
I I, I definitely think it's the minimum because if it's like I don't know, white boy and black boy fighting on a street, it could be 20%. But if it involves like a ghetto area or like a drug, or if the cops assume something, it's more than 20% for sure.
Yeah,
But that's still like
drugs,
uh,
especially. And I don't know about the statistics, but I've heard many times that there's a lot of Black people in jail or incarcerated for nonviolent crimes related to drugs. And there's a whole backstory to this, by the way, about like I think like crack and cocaine or something, and how Black people, like it was like systemized so that Black people would get arrested. There's a long. I'm not gonna go into that because I don't know it well enough.
I know a little bit about it, but like just to like, I know this is a very heavy topic and important, topic, but just to lightly talk about it,
Yeah.
systematically, Black people are more likely to end up homeless, especially if they're also Black people of queer like background as well, and they're more open and they have access to drugs, and so they're more likely to get addicted. They're more likely to get arrested because of it. So it's just like what we were talking about, the systematic that fails Black people.
Yes. And for all of you out there who are just like, oh, like, if I feel like if you believe everything the government tells you, you I would really start doing some more research, because also a lot of news articles work with the government. So be
Yeah.
careful about your sources too, because like they might be they might have a reason, or some money reasons
Uh,
for writing certain articles and twisting facts.
yes.
Like, for example, I saw there's an article that police stated that, and I might this number might be a little off, but that rioters during the rioting that's going on right now
Yeah.
stole over $2.4 million in Rolexes. And then, yes, that's an article. And then Rolex, the company, the actual company, made a statement, and they're like, well, that's impossible because that store didn't have any watches in them in that store. So they couldn't have done that. So it's complete BS.
Good job, Rolex, for like putting people like. I I can't believe like a news is trying to like use this and start some fire and shit. And can we cuss?
So
Yeah.
be careful about your sources. Even listening to us, I've said it a billion times, and I'm going to say it even more. Double check your facts. Even whatever we say, it doesn't mean it's necessarily true. You need to do your research.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then like,
Yeah.
do believe what you see. Also, if you, I'm not saying you have to go to protest. I'm sure if you go to protest, you'll see what you believe. But also, if like a close friend who's Black that you know you're close, if they're telling you certain things that's wrong and how they've been, that's their life, they lived through it, then you, if you don't believe them, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah. That's also a huge thing that's happening right now, is talking about, um, I mean, if someone tells you something, believe it. What why wouldn't you believe it? Like, especially someone close to you who you trust. If you don't believe what they're saying, I just don't I don't understand. What? Or it's I guess as a woman, a good way to relate to this point
Yeah.
is when you try to explain sexual harassment to men and they don't understand. It's like, I don't care if you have no personal experience with this. You need to listen to me
Yep.
and learn from it and believe me. For that's a situation which maybe the women, at least watching this, can
Of
kind of
course.
understand. Yeah.
But no one's believing in you, and but you know what you. I mean, I know what I went through, so like
Yeah,
I would believe anything my close friends would say. Like, because I know they're not like those type like weird people out to hurt me or scam me. Like,
exactly. So at
and-
the very least, believe the people you know and love and trust.
yeah,
But even more than that, if there's a large group of people who have there's information and decades.
Statistic, like you mentioned before.
Centuries of experiencing racism, and there's history on this. You can read about it, and we're still experiencing, or they're still experiencing the society. We are experiencing this in 2020, and they're saying this is a thing. So many people. Why can't you believe them? Why can't you stand with them? I don't understand.
And I do want to point out some people, even in Korean like news outlet, they were saying, "Oh my God, one person's death caused this outbreak. Why couldn't COP have waited until like whatever?" It is not because of that one person. This has been building up. This has been happening for a while. It's not that one person's death. I mean, like if it wasn't even on the news, by the way, but like a month ago, like months ago, there was Breonna Taylor incident, which was a I think she was working two jobs at a hospital during coronavirus pandemic, but a car literally came and crashed in her apartment, right? Let's say it's middle of the night, you just did your shift at ER, right? You're tired, you're with your boyfriends, you're at your apartment, you're like sleeping together, like two black couple, and one black couple, not two, one black couple. Sorry, I'm sleeping and a car crashes it, and then like your boyfriend's like gets out a gun and be like, "Hey, who's there?" Because I would be scared. I don't know about the gun part because I don't know, but like I think that's normal thing to do, you know.
Yeah.
But then like a police came after hearing like all this like noises and stuff and came and shot, and they both died in their own apartment. Like I don't know if this was real when I was reading it. Like they died in their own apartment.
Oh my god.
Like this was like even like I think this was in March too. So like
Where's the accountability for this? You know?
yeah, like
Oh,
this was not just
that.
George Floyd. Of course it's horrible, but like this is happens a lot. And
Yeah.
no one's making use about it. And then someone said something on Twitter, which I agreed with. If a police officer doesn't, if they don't turn on their cam, then they
Mm.
should be guilty automatically. They should always have it on.
Ooh. That's real. That's an interesting point. Yeah, I can agree with that.
And that's why like I want to talk about like privilege, right? You
Mm.
can get shot and die from your own apartment, right? And
Yeah.
get shot for playing a video game with an open window. You just open your window, but you get shot.
Oh,
Like there was a video I want to share right now. It was a recent video of like this was a Fox News, which I don't usually love, but I was happy that they actually posted this. There was actually someone was looting this business of a store, and the police came to like arrest the looters. They didn't arrest the looters. They arrested the store owners that was standing by the side without even asking questions.
what is that lady pointing at? What is she saying?
She was pointing at them and like they're not the looters, like they're the store
Oh,
owner. But then like when the cops arrived, they just automatically went to like a store owners and arrested them. And uh
oh my god.
you know what I'm trying to say though, right? Like the store owners called for help for police because someone was looting their store
Yeah.
and destroying their like property, of course. But then, why would the police?
That's so shameful. That's so shameful. And like, I know it's horrible. Okay, at the very least, it's like if you do that, and then this person is like, "Hey, they're not the looters." Then at that point, at the very least, you can be like,
Listen,
"Yeah,"
yeah,
but like just assuming from the start and arresting them, because the thing is also they're not even like running away. If you were a looter, you'd probably be running away. I don't know. If I was a criminal, I wouldn't just be standing there and being like, "I'm the store owner." Like that's not very common. I
Oh
feel
yeah,
so bad for them that they had to go through that too. And
yeah,
I mean, as we know, that's not even, at least I don't want to say that. I've heard other people say this too, and it's hard to say this in a way that doesn't sound horrible.
yeah,
But it's like there could have been an even worse outcome to this, and that's extremely sad.
yeah.
People like you said, like they got shot in their own apartment.
During Corona
They
pandemic
didn't
too.
do anything to deserve that. Like who deserves that? Anyone?
Even even like the judge, like this is right now bringing back up, right? This was brought it back up, but judge did not charge that police officer guilty.
Mm, mhm. Okay, well that's another an interesting point. And I know we're like jumping all around, so I hope you guys are kind of like okay with this flow. But yeah, I'm looking at the percentage, but most of the people in power and like the judicial system are white. Are you surprised? Is it surprising? I hope by this point it's not so surprising, but it makes sense then why so many people. Oh yeah, this was it. Prosecutors. Um, yes. Okay. So it says, okay, actually, this doesn't have any specific facts, but yes, overwhelmingly prosecutors are white, and we don't know about their um, racial background and things. And I don't know that I'm not necessarily saying all prosecutors are racist, not saying that, but I don't know, maybe there would be a difference in the outcome if more of the prosecutors were of color.
Yeah,
I definitely think so. Because
I I
like
agree.
how you judge things, no matter like the school you go to or whatever, I think a lot of that would, I think you still have bias and still things about your experiences and things in your background play into that. I definitely agree. And there's a lot of corrupt people in the judicial system.
Yes.
So the fact that it's an overwhelmingly white um, pop- population in the system that judges whether or not you spend, I don't know, 6 months for marijuana possession or 20 years is in the hands of someone who maybe shouldn't be. I don't know how to say this.
I know what you
It's a little it's dangerous and it's real.
and that's happening at my college I went to too, SCAD. All like someone pointed out like all of our professors are majority of white. And then for a longest time, not just 10, 20 years, but for the longest time. And it's also a majority of one gender, of male white professors. What? What is the even like an animation department? We have one, two, three, four, five. One female, two female, no, three, but then one retired, so technically it's two. So we only have two female professor against
Oh,
like eight male professor and two female professor just in the animation department, but over other curricular courses there are many like just white male teachers. And we our students actually have reached out because like one of our school president tweeted like we stand by for justice for all races, and I was like that doesn't come out right. It was like very tiptoeing.
oh,
Yeah, our president is pretty.
oh, come on. That is such a little weasel, like a little weasel, like, oh, I'm just gonna say something to appease everyone. I don't want to cause any, like a little, like neutral, like that's not even neutral. It's just dumb. But he's
Because
like,
I'm sure she's like rich white woman, so she has like those one of those friends who's like a lot of friends who are like very conservative. So she makes a lot of money off of like scat, but she's like, yeah, I I feel every life is important, and I'm like,
Okay.
ah,
And we are going to get to that for sure. Um, so let's continue with a little bit about privilege. And we can talk about, oh yeah, you said you asked me when was the last time I
realize that
realized
like
my privilege, and honestly, I probably don't even notice it, but it's definitely has to be there. I will say I notice it because I live in Japan right now. Um, so for example, I am a minority here, but
yes,
like
that is true.
Black people are even more of a minority here. Um, but for example, a lot of people have an image, a lot of an I'm not Japanese, so it's I feel and I feel like I'm not as integrated into society, so I don't know that I necessarily have a say in this, but I can feel the general atmosphere towards Black people, and well, there are some positive things. It's like some ooh, I don't know how to say it's like Black culture. A lot of people like Black culture.
But not the people sometimes.
Yeah, there's an image that Black people are really cool, but then there's another image where, especially like older people, where they're violent or dangerous, or there's something like scary about them.
Yeah.
And that is definitely an image here. Like I would say, for if it was me, and like especially a black male, especially, um, and I feel like in general, I would have more privilege than he would, and people would be less like, it's really sad to say, but like less afraid of me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um,
Which isn't
and I
right.
feel like I could, I feel like I'm more accepted by society here because of my skin color than, and the only time I've ever been stopped by police here, because if you're foreign here, it's gonna happen a lot, especially if you have tattoos and
Really?
you're not Asian, and you're not darker skinned Asian, because then maybe you'll be. I mean, if you're Japanese, you might be mistaken for being from somewhere else. Like I know a Japanese guy who's always mistaken for being Vietnamese or like Thai, born and raised in Japan, but he just has like not
Like,
like a non-typical Japanese like look.
yeah.
So like for darker skinned Asian people, anyone who looks like remotely foreign, like you're probably gonna have like be stopped, especially if you have darker skin or tattoos,
Yeah.
especially. Um, and I know as the only times I've ever been stopped is when I've been doing things I shouldn't have been doing. Oh, surprise. Like, yeah, like talking on the phone. I will say though, a lot of Japanese people talk on their phone while they're riding their bike, and I'm pretty sure I would be more likely to be stopped to them if I'm speaking English. Anytime I've ever been stopped while talking on the phone, it was because I was speaking English, but I wasn't supposed to be riding my bike. Anyways, if I was a Black guy, I feel like I would have been stopped way more for doing just by walking. I've heard stories, people just doing nothing, being totally fine. And they get stopped by police and asked to see their residence card or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what were they doing? They weren't doing anything. There's no reason for you to stop them. So that's my privilege for sure. Like,
Mhm.
I don't just get stopped randomly
Yeah.
for doing nothing, you know?
Mm.
I'm sorry. I don't want to make this about me, but I'm trying to explain like
That's
the
good.
privilege
Like
that I experience.
like you didn't notice, you didn't had this happened to you in America, when you move to Japan and when you become a minority because you are a foreigner, you
Mm.
start recognizing the privilege that you had in America. But even in a country like Japan, you as a white person, you still have more privilege over people over darker skin color, even if they're not
Yes.
just black or any Indian
Yes.
or like any people that are darker shade of skin, they get more
Yes.
discriminated,
I
which is very
definitely
true
feel
in Asian countries, which is not okay. So that was a good example.
well, and also like the thing is, for me, I am a white woman. So in America, I am the majority of, and not just the majority, well, technically a white male is I'm close, but white being a white male in America is the majority power. So this is something very important. So for example, in the future, which is highly likely to happen, I feel like um, Latino people, Latin people, I feel like are going to surpass the majority race in the US. That's my opinion. I'm not sure if that will really happen, but of course, there's more and more people coming, and to America, it's a beautiful melting pot. And I
Yeah.
do think that the majority percentage of race will change or be more equalized over time, which is, I mean, I guess anyone can make that assumption. But the majority power, it doesn't mean that will necessarily change.
Yeah, because people like I was telling professors at SCAD or like even like any professors, even at Georgia Tech, besides Georgia State, which has a lot of black professors, which is awesome. But
Yeah.
majority of people in power are mostly white male, to be honest.
Yes. And that's the thing. It's like for me, I mean, I'm a woman, so I'm kind of a little bit lower than that, but I'm close.
But
So,
you shouldn't be. But
but
yes,
I'm seeing like in the US, yeah, I shouldn't be for sure. But I feel oh wait, I shouldn't be wait, I don't know what sense that was, but white
you
people
more
shouldn't
than
be the
like
majority power.
yeah, yeah. You
And
should.
women
Everyone.
shouldn't have and other everyone. Okay. I think you
Everyone.
guys know what I was saying, what you're saying, hopefully.
Yes.
Um, okay. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm getting like so into this.
Pause that you're like, let me like.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
like, wait, what exactly? Yeah. Anyways, um, yes. So that is for me because I am basically the majority power as white. Um, I I didn't really experience racism. The only experience I had was because some people thought I was Asian and they were racist against me, but that's a whole nother story. And I'm like, oh, that's weird because I'm
Yeah.
not. Um, but yeah, um, so I had that privilege of not even having to think about my privilege because
Yes.
it was normal. It was everyday life for me. So that's my experience. So that's why, yeah, like as you're saying, when I came to Japan, I was more, or I'm more aware of my privilege.
Mm. And yeah, I think that's something that we recognize more and more. I think as we get older too, because I think younger you don't see the systematic racism. Like, of course, like I'm sure younger black kids they hear from their parents about like you need to be careful on the cop, and we don't get to. But like I think more you become aware and little things that happen, you're like, oh, why is it happening to my black friends, but I'm not getting like even at the protest like there was literally a video of a white woman kneeling and a black woman kneeling in front of a police to stop. They pushed the white woman away, but they arrested the black woman. So what you need to do, what the Twitter was telling, if you have a black friends, you have to stand in front of them so they don't arrest your black friends. So this is something cool that they're letting other people know. But
Wow.
that's so true. They're arresting other people and like it's very severe, and I know that protests shouldn't be like fun. It's not a fun thing for sure, but like it's be careful. Like I seen people they get handcuffed with like a ziplock. What do you call it?
Yeah,
And
the zip ties.
yeah, and they would their circulation would be often their hands turn white, and it was very scary. Be careful, um, stay safe, and yeah, but like
Oh,
keep
also, I'm sorry, this is really random, but I just remember this. If you are riding, don't wear contacts because I heard that tear gas burns the contacts into your eyes and you can go permanently blind. That is really random, but that's some information that I saw that seems to be legit.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So please tell your friends or anyone you know. And again, do research of your own. But that is what I heard. It is likely you can go permanently blind if you get tear gas while you're wearing contacts. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just remember that. And I feel like that's really important for people to know.
That's very important, like vision, and that's something like happening in protests. And let's talk about the protest and then the police, the all involving in it. The
Yes.
first thing that I was telling Anna earlier that I want to like let everyone know, looting or like destroying has nothing to do with the Black Lives Matter movement. There are people like I didn't recognize at first. I thought like, oh my God, first when I didn't educate myself, I was like, why are they destroying other stuff or looting other business? And it's not just black people looting businesses. There are literally a trending video on number 3 in America, which was a black woman preaching to non-black people like looting a bodega in New York City or like destroying us. Like, I hate that Korea and Japan, their news is showing only black people looting on their newses. And this was what Anna was saying earlier, like don't believe anything, everything your government shows it to you.
Yes.
I hate that they're doing it. And the people in the comment, I translated Japanese comments and I understand the Korean comments. They were all saying, well, they want to protest and like, why can't they do a peaceful protest and not loot? First of all, looting has nothing to do with the protest. And
Mm,
I don't think, I really think as a Korean or a Japanese person, you don't get it unless you have a friend. And I'm sure there are people who might get it, but I personally posted on my Korean Facebook that I have majority of Korean friends, and I usually post like sexy photos there, and that's what I use it for. But like being a gay person, I wanted to educate my gay friends about we got pride because of like black queer, so let's do this. But they were like, oh, why are they not doing a peaceful protest? Or hey, they haven't done anything for Korean people's right about like North Korean issues or Koreans issues with Japan. Like why hasn't or Korean or Asians in general get discriminated in America because of coronavirus? And why hasn't black people stood up for it? There are black people who stood up for it, but I do want to let people know, like Asian people, especially like Korean people, I don't think they'll understand what I'm saying unless you do speak English.
mm.
That Korea and Japan is a homogeneous, I don't know if that's the right word, country. 95% of people in your country looks like you. Okay? So you
We
wouldn't get
share the
this
same cultural values because you all culturally and racially
are same.
same.
So you do not get discriminated against. I'm sure there's a discrimination that's like light. I'm
Tattoos or something.
yeah, maybe like a light discrimination. Oh, you came from Busan or like a dialect or like
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
that is not compared to like I'm sure it's bad, but right now the black discrimination is way more bad. America is a country of a melting pot where police like we're gonna go into history of a police after, but police in America, I don't know if you know, when America was created and when the slaves got freed, white people got scared, so they started having patrol. There was a Pacific historical name
Mm,
for it. You can Google
okay.
it. So American law enforcement, the root of it, I didn't realize it until now. The creation of American police was created, law enforcement of America was created because white people were scared that the slaves were going to do something. So the whole entire history
Holy,
of American police was created by white people being afraid of black people so they can do something about their scary black slaves being freed.
ooh,
That is
ooh.
root in the history of American police. And that's where a lot of black activists or trans activists
Oh God.
were telling police and be like, you should quit being a police. I'm sorry. That's just the root of the thing. And I'm sure there's a lot of wonderful thing the police department has done. And of course, it's great, but like the root of American police, how it was created, and historically instead of systematically, it was created against black people. Like
Wow.
I
I
didn't.
didn't know about that. I didn't. And that's it makes a lot of sense because a lot of the things in this country aren't like that for like as a coincidence. Like it was made intentionally. The system is made intentionally to target black people and people of color and whatever else they're um, wanting to target. Yes, that makes total sense. Wow. And the sad thing is, it's again going back to what people say and what's the reality. It's like law enforcement in concept, right, in this day and age, is supposed to be there to protect the innocent. Did they protect those people that they shot in their apartment who were innocent? That it looks more like murderers. And I'm not saying all cops are murderers. And there's definitely a lot of cops maybe who are I don't know. I It's really hard because
I,
there's
I
levels of hierarchy and it's like
like definitely there are great cops. Like the one in Atlanta recently. There was a Latino officer and a black officer, and there was a black people protesting, and then a Latino officer got mad and like did something to a protester, and a black police officer got mad and be like, "No, I told you not to attack the people." So they are a good police officer. I
yeah,
like we're not saying there are bad police officers. There are great police officers,
yeah.
but systematically as a system, it was created against black people.
Damn. Again, if any of you guys out there are just like, oh, it's all coincidence, that's a very important point. Look at the history, go back in time. It's not a coincidence, it's on purpose. Systematic racism.
Wow, this is like a video class of like
Okay, again, research yourself. Um, More than an interesting topic, people's lives are on the line right now. And not just right now, they have always been on the line. As you mentioned earlier, the death of beloved George Floyd was not the is not like the only problem here. That was a way to spread awareness. So sad you have to do it because someone died, was murdered, should I say?
yeah.
And
Even
many other people were murdered
yeah.
by the
Even,
people who are supposed to protect us. Not saying all of them are that way, by the way.
but like it was crazy because like 2 weeks before there was like a guy who was like telling a woman in a park that you shouldn't do certain things to a dog, and the white woman literally called the cops that this black man is threatening me, and that went viral. And then the week before or 2 weeks before, it became a light on the news of like a African American person running around his neighborhood, and he got shot by a shotgun by a dad and his son. And this was like not even like this was like this is keep happening. And there was a video that I wanted to show you about like the
Okay.
history of a trans black activist that I follow.
Okay.
Okay. So this is, of course, you can search it. It's literally on everywhere. On, you can search how the law enforcement of America got created. But here's like a some version of like how the police system was law enforcement in America was created in general.
Conspiracy theory that I would love for all your followers to understand is that when I say fuck the police, I mean that shit. And when I say that, what I mean when I say that, because some people are like, oh, well, my cousin or so and so, they're a police officer and they're a great person and, what have you. Like, listen, great on them. Encourage them to find a new career. And the reason why I say that is because the police force Please understand history and to know that the police force was only created once the slaves were freed, and they needed to protect white people and white property. For the longest time, white people have not been, they've been not been scared of us getting freedom. They've been scared of us wanting revenge on 400 years of all this stuff. So you got these thin-skinned racist folks behind the badge, and they've always been behind the badge. And you've had the KKK behind the badge. So when you got some young black boy dreaming about one day becoming a cop and getting into the system and changing the system, we have got to educate our people more to understand what a system is. So that you understand. I understand it sounds nice that you want to get in there and do different and change things, but this is a system, sweetie. It was made before you were here, and it will continue to go on long well after you are gone. So as much as you want to be in the police force and do these things, you can see how many of these good cops are calling out the bad one.
So yeah, like that got me like doing all the research, and it's actually in fact like UGA, our beloved, like none of us went there, but UGA records has the longest record of how the police force was created in Georgia and America, and I checked on UGA site, it's accessible that it is created because white people were scared of black people. Like in general, that was a system before, and like I agree something like that she was saying, like yeah, you want to go in and change the system and you want to be better for the community, and I'm sure that there is, but like it, I don't know, 6 years and then still the same stuff. Like
This is such a difficult topic, and I really like again that she was like, this is a system, because that's true, and it's so hard to change a system when, like as I mentioned, there's a hierarchy, and it doesn't end unless you can somehow remove all of that and
yeah,
start from scratch.
over.
Probably isn't gonna happen unless you just get rid of it completely. But then again, I don't know how. I don't know.
I
Oh,
think I don't know how, but I think definitely having like a lot of diverse, but like a lot of black police officer in the higher ranks, and it should be like there should be like a quota of like a diversity of police officer meeting at certain places. Sure, it might be different in certain states or certain city where it's like a white town and it's a bunch of white people. It might be hard to meet a quota of that sort, but it's something of similar like has to be done. Like
yeah.
this is wrong. Like we
I definitely agree with the quota thing, and it's hard to say because then you say, well, most of the population is white, so how can you do the quota system? So basically, like, maybe there's like some white cops or some white people who are going to be good cops, but they don't have a chance because of the quota. But then again, the representation is so important
yeah.
because it will make a huge difference. I think it will make a huge difference to have more equal representation in the system, which if we can't break the system, I think starting with more equal representation, like having more diversity, like you said, would make a huge difference in changing things. Because if they go through the hierarchy, I don't know, but there's so much corruption though.
Yeah, so it's
But
like I wish there was like you know how companies they have HR to like if people can complain. I wish there was something of that sort to like police department that someone checks them every month, not just
yeah,
like the police officer that kills people accidentally, but
yeah,
check every police station. That
yes,
would create a new jobs for people too. Like every police station would have like a HR person to check on them and be like, is everyone doing right thing and is no one being weird? Or I don't know, they could go corrupt too, but like maybe have create some certain way people can't go corrupt, but like
like an ethics department.
yeah, like check something like
Yeah,
why has all the arrests this month have been against black people? How many black people we arrested towards white people? Okay, do they really did something, or was it like a same crime that a white person committed too? Or
Yeah.
like, it's hard to check up on everyone, but maybe like watch their face, like camera that police people have is you can judge on yourself. Because if yeah, you don't know if they arrested and if it was justified, but maybe someone can watch those footages, not check those footages because like, oh, news caught it and then like someone's calling out on it and there's whole riot going on. Maybe you have to do that regularly because no one's checking these white cops or even like
Yeah.
Latino cops or even some Asian cops that's being
Yeah.
discriminatory against black people.
I totally agree. As in, if we have to keep the system, or if it seems like it is necessary for some reason, which in some circumstances, I but then again, I am in the majority power because I feel like I would be a little afraid if we didn't have police officers for situations like, for example, if I was like
Rape.
potentially going to be raped or stalked or something, like that concerns me. I just want to know like what we could put in place instead of them, which maybe we should again just get rid of the old system, and maybe it would be similar to police, but it would be a new system created in this day and age that has a foundation of actually protecting everyone rather than based on a system that targets a specific group of people. So I would totally be into that, but I do kind of agree that we need some law enforcement.
Yeah.
But I do also agree that maybe the old system is that needs to be they need to get rid of it.
Yeah, and then I definitely agree. It has to be like very history too.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if this is for a fact, but I feel like people who don't study history or didn't pay attention in a history class or like have like a severe impact on them, they most likely turn out to be like, oh, I don't have sympathy towards other people who went through all of these stuff. Like we have like when I first studied African American history in like US history classes, but like as an immigrant, I didn't know any of this. I thought America was just like a beautiful country with all that stuff, but I was taught that people got discriminated. Of course, like I learned about the privilege at a late age, of course, but I think learning about it in high school and memorizing it for a test, the slavery, we spent like 2 weeks on it, like in high school and middle school, like every class every year on African American history and Martin Luther King movement
Yeah.
alone. That's something that we need to teach also, and like maybe current stuff as well, not just the old, like change the old system and the people who are working in police officer who are old, but also teach like younger people, but like
Education.
because like these teenagers doing certain posting stuff in times like this that's insensitive because they don't get it.
They're so far removed, and like I I don't know, like it's just it's crazy. And honestly, I remember talking to a black person in university, and they told me racism doesn't exist, and I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. That's really crazy. Cause like I hear it from white people for sure. Like, I mean, not real. I don't hear them say it directly, but like, I mean, whoa, that was crazy. I don't know. That was really off topic, but it just reminded me of like the distance, because it can also depend on the area you're living in
Peachtree
and
City.
your educational background too, and like, um, well, I wasn't talking about Peachtree City. I was talking about my university, but it was in Georgia. I'm not going to say the exact place. Not that you would know the person, but I'm also kind of private about my information. But
Yeah.
going back to cops, I thought this was super interesting. Or I thought this was a good analogy. So Chris Rock, the comedian, he had a quote. He has a quote. He says, "I know it's hard being a cop, but some jobs can't have bad apples. Everybody gotta be good. Like pilots. American Airlines can't be like, well, most of our pilots like to land. We just got some bad apples that like to crash into mountains.
That's true.
I think that's a pretty
It's
good
true.
analogy. Being a police officer, like what we talked about, having like I don't know HR or like an ethics committee that needs to check these things. It's like any job. At the very least, treat it like a professional job, and these things should be looked at.
Yeah. Maybe like I don't know, we can talk forever about what the good solution could be. Like that's very important and it needs to be done, but there's some I think we all can agree it needs to change for sure. Like like I really like that analogy of like not every pilot you don't have to have bad apples. You can't have bad apples and bad like pilots. It needs to apply to polices too. That's sad, man. That we have to think about this. Like you and I have to think so hard about like what the system can be better. But that's a good thing. But
It's
like the fact,
funny. It's just crazy. Another thing I saw was like someone posted about time zones. I'm sorry, I would like to credit them, but I don't remember who they were. But they were like, yeah, it's like for example today. Oh yeah, it's like June 4th in America. I mean, I don't know, June 4th in Canada or something, and oh, it's June 5th in Australia, but it's 1920 in America. It's like wow. Time zones are crazy. Yeah, because it's literally like so crazy that it's still like this in 2020.
funny. I think like I think I'm over. I think I as a person is over that. This is like in 2019 or 2020. Get back. Like you got to be better. But I'm like, it's been fucked up since 2000. So like I think I knew. I think like I knew, but kind of ignored it. But then like
Yeah,
I guess that's what privilege is because it doesn't affect us directly, right?
yeah,
And we're at our comfort of our home instead of like being worried about our lives and going to protest. So that's also a privilege. But I also wanted to like talk about it. There's many ways to help donate, talk about it, educate ourselves and educate other people about it.
yeah.
But yeah, again,
Um,
fuck the police.
Also, I'm gonna pour some tea, so you might hear something. I didn't want to like pour tea while we were talking about serious things.
Oh yeah.
Hey, this is a long podcast. Forgive me for drinking tea. What is going on with my hair?
I wanted to share something which I think you might agree with, which are white allies also getting attacked by conservative people. So this girl and her friends or I think family were trying to put a George Floyd posters.
Yeah.
Wait for me. Hey, leave her alone. Do not touch her. Do not touch her. She has nothing. Do not touch her. Sir. Leave her alone.
Little girl.
Sarah, just walk away. Hey,
She had a George Floyd poster and he
just
attacked.
get out of here. What? Hey.
What?
You want it?
What?
Give it to me.
That's okay.
So they were just literally putting a poster for George Floyd on a hike trail. A Black Lives Matter and a biker who was biking by got triggered by it and be like, take that thing off. And it was little girl, 12-year-old, 13-year-old probably putting it on it, and a white man, older, like you could, he was a grandpa-ish age, 50, 45, 50. He approached a little girl.
Grandpa, but yeah.
Yeah, that's so scary, but like approach a little girl and like do that.
Violent. He was being violent with a little girl. And then he went and attacked the camera. Did he like ram his bicycle into her? Or him?
Yeah, he tried to run his bicycle towards him, and the guy had to throw his phone to dodge him. I don't know if he got hit or not. Police is looking into it. This just happened earlier today, and they're trying to. Hmm?
Was it a police officer? Because he kind of looks like a police.
Someone. That's true, but they're suspecting that he's like a lawyer. You said the people in power, right?
Goes back to that. Oh my god.
Like, this is nothing to be celebrated about, but like even white people against their own people who's trying to voice other people. Like one of our friend like was having a problem. Like I had a voice call with like my friends in California the other day. She got in an argument with her parents about like the issue, and it was hard like because family and politics don't mix. And me too. I'm like there was also a famous kid star that also posted on was doing an Instagram live the other day, and her dad came up and be like, "You shut up, young lady. Do not talk about that." And she was like, "No, I need to talk about George Floyd. It matters." But like he was like, "No. Do you know how many black I work in the ghetto?" Like it's hard to sometimes talk about it with like a parents or like family member that's very has different political views, but this shouldn't be even like again this shouldn't be even about political abuse at all. It's about people's lives. But sadly the truth is like it's hard talking about this with your family sometimes because they don't
Yeah.
agree on certain things.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to point out. Like, for example, ways we talked about ways that this situation can change, which again, changing the system by probably
Yeah.
taking it down and starting a new one based on like, I don't know,
Mhm.
actually protecting everyone,
Of course.
educating people
Mhm.
is another huge thing. Like, for example, um, when I have kids, because I want kids, when I have kids in the future, I will really like pound it into them that everyone is equal.
Yes.
So it needs to start from the beginning. Okay, people, little kids, if they're being racist, they learn by example. Like, even outside, if people say, if little like Japanese kids here say some shit about me, and their parents like sometimes
That's
push them, sometimes don't.
yeah.
I don't really blame the kid. I'm like, yeah, when you go home, your parents are probably saying some shit about foreign people. So it's like the same in the US. Like if you see like little kids being little racist buttholes, it's probably because their parents are even more racist buttholes. Or their family or whoever their guardian is. And it's like that's not okay. We need to educate. And
Yeah.
it really educating people, but and then the other thing is I think if people around you are saying bigot things,
Yeah.
being a bigot, or they're saying yeah racist things, or things that are just really off color, like um, like I think you need to say something. That is my opinion.
Yeah.
I think if it endangers you, I'm not going to say that you should do that because
Yeah.
you need to, your safety needs to be number one. Like, I think so. Um, if you can do it in a safe manner, I think it should be done. Like with my family, they don't say certain things around me because they know that I am uncomfortable with it and I will say something. Of course, with my grandma, like, okay, well, let me talk about the one that's already passed away.
Oh
You
my
know,
god.
um, let's not bring family members into this, but
Yeah.
I mean, she was alive, and she was a kid during the Great Depression. Um, so she was there with when everything was separated, and she called Black people colored people.
Color people, yeah.
Yeah, which nowadays we say Black people, African Americans, or people of color to include all. But at the time, colored people was a term, and she said some interesting things. But in my opinion, I'm like, well, she's gonna, you know,
Yeah.
um, move on, and eventually, and I at that point, like she was like in a nursing home and stuff. I'm like, just letting that go. But there's some situations where I think it's good to educate people, or at least let them know your stance on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they love you, which they do, and I think they're gonna care and listen, and like your family member and
At
you.
least respect you, unless they're a narcissist, which, hey, I'm sorry if you have one of those people in your family. I feel you. They're a lost cause. I'm telling
Boy,
you, they're a lost cause.
oh yeah, you're like "Nyeh, nyeh." Yeah, but yeah, like you need to have a conversation and you need to be polite, like you said, respect and not bring up a triggering subject for both of the parties. And like Thanksgiving, avoid politics and religions and all that stuff. That's good, but like again, like I know we shouldn't be silent about it, but your safety, if you're dependent on someone, for example, I still haven't came out to my parents and I don't want to come out or say anything gay rights. So same thing vice versa about the Black Lives Matter movement. If you're with like a very extremist, I don't know, maybe your parents are KKK, this could be real. Like
Yeah.
don't
Well, they're not, but yeah,
yeah.
for people watching, I don't
No,
know.
not you, not you, not your family.
I'm just saying because I am white, so maybe someone's like,
But yeah, but like don't talk about it if your safety or your even living condition depends on it. And I
yeah,
get it, like you're passionate and you want to speak about it. Trust me, like when my parents say something like anti-black or anti-LGBT, it gets me fired up.
yeah,
But sometimes like I know like that's what makes me want to
yeah,
work harder, motivate, but you can help in other way,
yeah.
which I want to talk about to like wrap all this together in a beautiful conclusion. What can we do to help?
Well,
Like,
I think even before, I think what we're talking about right now is still really important to talk about, yeah, and like safety, and not even just in your own home, which is this very important point, but outside, there's some crazy people, and like you can literally, as we've seen, be killed for your opinions. And like we're not saying you shouldn't share them, but we want you to be safe.
yeah,
If you're dead, it's hard to continue helping people. I mean, in these cases, like with George Floyd and other people who have passed away,
yes,
their family members and community have tried to let everyone know what happened and use it as a way to educate and hopefully change society. But again, and a lot of those situations, it wasn't even people sharing their opinions or doing any of that. It was for just no reason, which sharing your opinions shouldn't be a reason, you know what I'm saying. But again, we want all of you guys to be safe, and yeah, we stand with you for sure.
no. we
And
need
yeah,
we need people for the movement of equality, for Black Lives Matter. And we want to briefly touch on, if you say all lives matter, like I like we talked about it too. First, I was when I heard it, I was like cute, but then like an analogy that people use was like house is burning, right? One house is burning. Or like someone also commented this too. Let's say every house is burning, right? Every house in the neighborhood is burning just a little, but this one house is like burning way more. Like
yeah,
I'm saying, I know other races, even white people have problems. They do face racism in different countries. They do. I'm not saying you don't, but
yeah,
everyone has little things, problems in their own houses. But
yeah,
this one house been burning up, like party, like fire everywhere.
yeah,
Like
and
this house,
yeah,
this life matters the most right now. That's what the Black Lives Matter about the movement is about. And Black Lives Matter movement is, it's not only about black straight people, it's also about black trans people. A lot of black people is also divided on this issue, but it shouldn't be. Trans people of color, especially a black trans woman, has been dying the most. Sometimes even from their own community of black people, they beat them up and they die because, can you be beaten to death? That sounds very painful. You've been beaten to death. And
yeah,
recently there was a Twitter video of like people aggressively attacking black trans women. Black lives matter. All black lives matter, but not all lives matter, or white lives matter. Not that shit,
yeah,
but black lives matter. And
yes.
and do you have anything you want to say about this?
Oh, well, yeah, for sure. Like the LGBTQ plus community has, and that's a whole nother video we'll be doing. but yes, apparently with there's Black Lives Matter, but within that there's an extra prejudice towards the LGBTQ plus. So let's say LGBTQ plus, they're already receiving, or they already have a lot of prejudice against them, and then we have black people who are also experiencing all this racism, and then you're a Black person and you're also LGBTQ plus. The I don't know the exact numbers, but you're way more likely to
Yeah,
be.
that's so true. That is, I know what you're talking about. Like we don't, we
Yeah.
can't, I'm sure you can Google it right now, but like that is true. Continue.
Yeah, and yes, of course I believe that. And like you said with the house thing, the original analogy, if you don't know this, is to explain why the all lives matter is bullshit. Okay, we curse on this channel, right? Or do we not?
Oh, no, you know what? Fuck it. If you're, we literally watched about dick getting tattooed. Not to take focus on Black Lives Matter, like we can
Okay.
cuss.
I'm pretty sure I might have cursed already in this video, but what was I even? Oh my god, what was I saying?
I know.
Oh yes, all lives matter is bullshit.
Bullshit.
Why? Because, for example, white people's lives already apparently matter in the system.
Yes.
So, first of all, why are you talking about that? And the analogy is, so we have a neighborhood, and all these houses, and then one house is just up in flames on fire, and the person, they're like, oh, well, all lives matter, all my house matters too. But then the Black person is like, well, but my house is on fire, my house is on fire, your house is not on fire, you're not in danger, you're not going to die. What are you talking about? No, the white person or whoever is like, oh, well, my house is also important. So it's like them calling the fire department to put out a fire that isn't even on their house. Does that make any sense? Am I going off topic?
You know, like a similar, like more easier, clear, like to make it better, is like let's say a white person, or there's like a one hose that has water to come out in the area.
Okay.
And you're holding on it. I'm gonna put out the fire in my house, but then your neighbor comes up and be like, "Oh, can I use that house? I gotta use it on my house." But you're like, "But your house is not on fire."
Yeah. Okay, that's much more clear. Yeah. It's like it's if you hear it in that way, it's kind of like you can also understand. If you don't at this point, it doesn't make any sense that all lives matter. There's no point to it. We already know your life matter, all lives matter, obviously, but in particular, there is a particular group being targeted: Black people, people of color. You know.
Police is like created against them, society is created against them, system is created against them, and then even not just society and the system, people, white people, Asian people, Latino people, other people of color have prejudice against Black people. They are the worst of the bottom toll. And what's more worse is, more than a Black person, Black trans person is more likely to have way worse than any of them. So like it's not a competition against a like Black person as a whole. Black Lives Matter has to be the first.
Yes. But that's a very important point to note, that it's, again, we're talking about race, but also sexuality within race.
No, gender identity and
Oh, gender identity and sexuality, and I think there's a lot of things that I'll be forgetting, but all of those things also play a role. So it's not, maybe typically people are just thinking heterosexual Black people. Yeah. But under that is also the LGBTQ plus community, which is being even more attacked. And again, when it's not a competition, but they also need to be, their stories also need to be heard,
Yes.
and they also need to be protected because their house is burning up in an inferno and we need to help them.
And like while talking about this, I also want to talk about the white gays, like gay white dudes. They also benefit off of white, what do you call it, privilege.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go for Twitter for a while because Twitter is so negative. And I understand this was like great news, good matter, but it physically and emotionally is draining sometimes seeing so many deaths and so many emotional news. So that's also a privilege too. But like I was being drained. So like I was like, I'm not gonna use any Twitter anymore for regular stuff. I'll stick to my Twitter, which is strictly porn. But then what I fucking came to find out, a lot of white gay porn star I follow, they're also fucking racist as fuck. So let me share some of the stuff that people share on Instagram. So this is like some of the famous gay stars, and they would say like, "Oh, America, you let black people loot as a way of protest. Wake the fuck up, shoot first." Or like this person of one of the famous YouTuber, he was like, we will remember exactly why the destruction happening because this is how your movement is solving the problem and getting a glimpse of a gaining momentum, and the power is scary. I became a Trump supporter and abandoned my fight for gay rights because I will not watch our cities burn.
What?
And yeah, I don't understand. And this
There's,
one,
all lives matter. And since you want to say black lives, black. What about what?
Workers' lives.
Yeah, workers' lives. The ones that are not destroying things and going in riots. There's an example of why black lives aren't the only ones that matter. And if you think they do, then they don't.
What?
I know, and this is a gay person. Like, so we need to acknowledge, yes, gay person get discriminated, but sometimes gay white males, not all of you. Like, of course, there's a lot of gay people that I know who are white, who went to SCAD, who is supporting at protests right now. Great people. But there are shitty ass people, especially some of these porn stars that are like, one thing that got me pissed off was like one person post a picture of their ass and said hashtag Black Lives Matter to promote their ass. And I'm like, this is not to promote yourself and like.
Oh my gosh, that happens. That's actually a common thing. Which is like Instagram people, like for example, whenever there's natural disasters or something, they'll post like a sexy model picture of themselves and they'll be like praying for everyone.
Not the time, like.
Okay. And then
Like,
companies who are like, wow, saying some neutral comment about the situation, like just for money and stuff. Like there's definitely organizations or businesses that I feel are actually trying to bring awareness to the situation and legitimately care. But there's also a lot of businesses that are using this to gain financially, which is really sick.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Like there's a lot of good business, but there's also like, I don't know, some people are opportunists. They are donating money, but like apparently Disney and Sony and other companies, they donated to Black Lives Matter at the same time, at the same day. Like I get it, it's great. Like 5 millions. A lot of people have different opinions. I'm sure they can give out 100 millions. I'm sure they have that to give out. But like I still appreciate that 5 millions at least.
Yeah, I don't think we should be donate shaming, which is also a thing. It's like you donate, why are we saying, oh, you should have given more money? Like appreciate it, but I can see
Yeah.
the
Like
concern as to what the reason behind their donation is. It's more of like a kind of PR thing. Look at me, we love everyone.
yeah. And then we shouldn't shame other people for not saying anything soon. Like for example, BTS didn't say anything for a while, but I think as a Korean company, based in Korea, they don't know about American history and things to say. So they literally did a full research on 3 days before posting like a really good like supporting. It's specifically saying Black Lives Matter, not saying like we don't want we care about every life. It was specifically Black Lives Matter. So like apparently Emma Watson got canceled in like 3 days because she didn't say anything. Like that's why I wanted to stay away from Twitter because everyone was getting canceled for not saying anything every quickly. Like I get it, people should say stuff quickly, but some people are literally trying so hard if they're not black to research and educate themselves and go with their PR people to make sure they say everything that's right and trying to be genuine and not offend anyone. So like let's not jump on a hate train for like anyone for like not saying anything. Like what did Hermione Grangers do? Like she didn't even say anything yet. I know silence is bad, but I'm sure they're thinking about it. And like BTS is a great example. Like Taylor Swift is a great example. Other celebrities took days to say it, but like it's I agree. Like we shouldn't just jump on it because some people would just jump on it without not thinking about it, and that
Yeah.
sometimes come across unthoughtful. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying let's accept the bare minimum help we can get, but like let's not cancel people too quickly, you know?
Oh,
Unless they're like all lives matter, then like yeah.
yeah. I think that's a good point. And I think we also have to remember celebrities are people. And I don't know, like they're also constantly being picked apart for anything they say. So like especially someone like BTS who I mean, I don't know if are there American members? I don't know.
Well,
But even like if you're living away from it and it's not a primary thing in your news feed or something, like I can understand. And if you're not raised with it, how can you expect them to understand? And yes, they like I don't think I think since they are international like pop stars, I do think they do have a responsibility because they do have a lot of fans like who live in America and black fans. Um, so I do think that celebrities do have a responsibility to talk about these issues because they do have a platform and so that they can share their voice and share knowledge but they are people, so just like us, we don't know everything and we could even research for years and still not have full everything. I mean, that's kind of extreme, but um
I know what you're trying to say. Like
yeah, I think but I do agree that silence,
speaks volumes.
it does. So I
Like okay, let's talk about silence speaks volume. Like give
okay.
them time a bit. Like Apple hasn't said anything. Samsung hasn't said anything on Twitter or on Instagram. Like that's so bad. Like it is like I was kind of like because I'm a Samsung fan. I was kind of a little disappointed.
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna said something, and so a lot of tech companies aren't doing anything. Like I'm sure they're gonna jump on this bandwagon, which is not cute. Probably it shouldn't be a
Yeah.
bandwagon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This shouldn't be this bandwagon that's like, oh, let's jump in. It's like, okay, we do
Yeah,
care.
we feel it's safe, you jump on, which I mean, technically you could say that for us too. But then again, we do this podcast weekly.
Yeah, and I don't even want to talk about the Cheeto in the White House.
Oh, the Cheeto in the White House with the dead animal on his head.
His tweet got censored by Twitter. I was so happy. He tweeted bury something. What did he tweet exactly?
Oh my gosh, I've seen some of his tweets too.
It got censored because it was triggering and it was very against Black Lives Matter. So I was like, that is our president.
Okay, while you search for that, also I'm pouring more tea.
Oh yes, I forgot how to.
It sounds like someone's peeing, so just so you know, I'm not peeing.
Oh yes. Let me just type. Ugh, I'm just ready for a new president, a black president, Obama, or I.
I mean, I definitely agree that we should have, again, more people of color in power. Yeah. And if they're going to be the majority power in power,
Yeah.
they need to be woke, okay?
Oh,
I don't
wow.
think that slang term is old. Okay, I'm not with the young people and stuff. I also don't have a TV, by the way.
Wait, this dude is tweeting every 2 hours. Every 2 hours, literally for past. Oh my god, he's been tweeting so much. Like, why are you tweeting so much?
You know,
Like, he tweets a lot. Maybe it's PR people, but he tweeted something like 9 hours ago, 2 hours ago, 4 hours ago, 6 hours ago, and every 2 hours there's a tweet against this.
it's not him. Did I say that?
He one thing he says, you don't burn churches in America, exclamation point. The radical left Democrats' new theme is defund the police. Let's remember that when you don't want crime, especially against you and your family, this is where Sleepy Joe is being dragged by socialists. I'm complete opposite. More money for the law enforcement. Hashtag law and order. I'm trying to find the one he got tweeted, oh, make America great again. Oh, he said, if you watch fake news, CNN, blah, 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 very bad for a country. Oh my God, this dude.
Maybe we should look on online because he might have deleted something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, I do understand why people follow him. We shouldn't, but like,
I can see it like people who like reality TV, like
oh,
people who enjoy watching train wrecks, or if you just want to keep tabs on him and know the dumb shit he's saying, to be like, hey guys, this is our president.
this is a shit show. Wait, Trump tweet censored. Black Lives Matter. Let's see. Oh, okay, got it. Twitter hides Donald Trump's tweet for glorifying violence. He says, I can't stand back and watch this happen to a great American city, Minneapolis. A total lack of leadership, either a very weak radical left layer got his act, or Jacob Frey get his act together and bring the city under control, or I will send the National Guard and get the job right. Oh, job done right. What do you mean you will send the National Guard and get the job done right?
What job are you referring to?
I guess it got banned because of the that this tweet violated the Twitter's rule for glorifying violence. However, Twitter has determined that it may be in a public interest to Twitter to remain accessible. So I was like, oh, he built around the wall around his house and he hid it. And when people were protesting in his White House, he
Oh yeah, he's eating his steak or his filet mignon, whatever.
no, he actually was in his bunker. So there's like an underground bunker. You can lock the door like underneath. So he actually was in his bunker.
Okay, well that makes sense because they're probably worried about acts of, I don't know, terrorism again. Maybe someone blowing up the White House or something. I mean, it's not so unheard of. Not that I think you should, but okay, that is interesting though. Going away from talking about Cheeto, like we all know the Cheeto. We are okay.
You like the
By the way, I love Cheetos, but I don't love him. He looks like a Cheeto though. I like the taste. Just want to say. Okay, talking about peaceful protesting and what's going on right now, which is rioting. Why are people rioting?
They're mad.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Actually, I met with my friend the other day. Let me give you the insider story. Lennox, place we went to.
Yeah.
Movie theater. There was a
Lennox Mall.
yeah. There were peaceful riot.
Yeah.
A lot of people are outside until police and the National Guards arrived. Then people freak the fuck out. Like, I'm sure there are people who there's also sometimes other extremists, white extremists there to like trigger and like get other people riled up and mad too. But I also agree the presence of police and a National Guard will definitely freak some people out and get triggered. Like, you are peacefully protesting, right?
Mhm.
You hear the peaceful protesters get shot and like scared. And then like when National Guards and helicopters arrive, people just like freak the fuck out. So it went hell. Like, it was destroyed. A lot of restaurants there were destroyed. It was scary to see certain pictures, like place that you and I would go to sometimes. So it was like, whoa, like it's very happening. And like,
Wow.
I do understand there's a history why people are rioting, because even Martin Luther King Jr., who
Yeah.
has reportedly and on records peacefully protested.
Yes.
But what you don't see is people who's afterward the protest where they get beat down, they would die, or either they would get arrested. Yes, they've been, like,
Mm.
black people have been peacefully protesting for 60 plus years since the civil rights movement. But
I saw something and I'm not sure. I didn't like fully fact check this. What am I doing? Okay. But what I saw someone said this, so this is
yeah,
and info. That after Martin Luther King was assassinated,
yeah.
that 110 cities in America, people started rioting,
Which did happen, yeah.
and it was $47 million in damages. And on the 6th day of rioting, the Civil Rights Act was passed, of 1968. So I believe there's other factors into why it was passed. It's not maybe just because of the rioting, but I think like rioting puts pressure on the
The
system.
yeah.
So at first, I also, when I saw people, like things about people rioting, I was kind of like, especially when they're talking about the looting, which we mentioned earlier, is not actually a part of it. It's just people randomly like looting at the time, taking advantage of the situation and looting.
Yeah.
It's not like part of it.
And not only black people,
Those are
there's
like
yeah.
extremists, and not only black people. I've actually seen things of police officers looting my
At the shoebox one?
but yeah, so rioting, there's peaceful protesting, but sometimes, and these are our opinions, or my opinion is like peaceful protesting, I actually did do some, I took a class on like a peace studies class, specifically focusing on Martin Luther King and Gandhi, and we also studied like South Africa and apartheid.
Whoa.
But
That's
yeah, but peaceful protesting is very, very strategic, and there are a lot of casualties for sure. Because peaceful protesting means when it gets violent, you're also not supposed to fight back. Because when you fight back, especially now with media, it makes you look bad. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that that's right or wrong, but then like you're saying with the Korean media, for example, or like our American media, they take those pieces. They can take those little pieces of, let's say a police officer is like beating someone up and then they fight back. They'll cut the part about the police officer beating them up first, and they'll just show the black person, like, or whoever beating the police fighting back, you know? So that also plays a role in that. Media. Yeah, peaceful protesting is definitely requires a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of strategy, and unity. And I think we're going towards the point of unity, but
Yeah.
we need help from the majority power. The majority power needs to be involved. They need to be involved. And the community, everyone needs to be involved for it to work. Because if all of the people come together, what can the system do? They can't do anything.
Yeah.
That's always been a common theme in peaceful protests, is everyone coming together as one. Like, it's like a wall of people, which leads to a lot of casualties for sure. And I totally understand if you're getting attacked, your instinct is to fight back. And I'm not sure what the planning is right now too, or like what they're telling people to do. I'm not there, and I haven't done enough research into it. But there's definitely, I think rioting also has it can also work, because I think there is a point. I mean, for example, Gandhi or someone, they didn't believe, like, it's like Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King. I don't necessarily would say one side is right or wrong.
I think they both did something like together somehow. Yeah.
Yes. But I guess you can also go back to the whole the end justifies the means, which is actually something with, like, I'm not comparing them to Hitler, but that is something that a lot of dictators have done too, which is like, yeah, you can do whatever, by any means, whatever method you want to get to your end. And I don't know, do you believe in that too, that violence, like, is okay? But then again, it's like, there's a point where if you don't do some of those things, like, they don't listen.
Yeah, like, of course, civil rights movement has been passed.
Yeah.
We had to protest for a longest time.
Yeah.
Movies are still being made in the
Yeah.
past and then now about Martin Luther King's and the whole lot of black movies too about slavery. So they did all that for them to ride a bus with a white person, or you don't have to give up your seat like Rosa Parks, or they did that so they don't have a colored bathroom. So
Yeah.
that was a right they were fighting for, basic human rights. But now we're fighting for everything that black people should have gotten in the first place when they
Yeah.
were freed. When slavery became illegal, when they become American citizen, we're all American.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, even immigrants too, they're here.
Yeah.
We're all here. We're all Americans, and we're all, like, even by spirit, if you're not, like, on paper you're not American, but if you identify and you live, like, we should all be same American, right? Not,
Well, just people. We're all people, and people, no one deserves that kind of violence against them, and no one deserves to fear for their life if they get pulled over by a police officer.
yeah.
You shouldn't. That's like, that shouldn't be happening.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, rioting, if that's what we need to do, I mean, I don't want to say the end justifies the means, but I mean, that's a difficult topic for sure. But
like, let's you can go to protest.
June? Wait, June, you're frozen. Wait, am I frozen?
Due to power outage and technical difficulties, we want to talk about, like, we talked about the white privilege and Asian privilege that we have, and the police, how it was created, and then the systematic racism black people face.
Yes.
And we talk about what we can do to, like, possibly improve the police system. And we talk about, like, people or experiences of when there was just a lot of stuff that we talked about.
Yes.
And, like,
yes, we've talked for a long time. If
any of you guys that are still here, like, we love you and thank you so much for your support.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes, please continue this conversation even after this video is over. But before we end it,
Like the peaceful riot versus like the violent riots. We were talking about Malcolm
Yeah.
X versus Martin Luther King before the power went out.
I mean, no, there's nothing else I really have to say about that. It's just like I can't say that there's a right or a wrong. First of all, I'm not God, but it's like, I mean, I really have no place to say that either because I'm not there. Some situations call for different measures. Maybe should I say, I am pro peace. But, you know, things happen, and I know that, this is kind of a difficult topic. I don't really have anything else to say, but I said, you know, from what I was studying, but you know, no situation is the same. Okay, my computer's being really loud. I'm gonna put it on my lap so it will be like less, maybe.
No, that's good. You need to let it out because your computer is heating, so the fan needs to let out the heat.
Yeah.
So we'll edit it out, and I want to say, like, I really appreciate you having this conversation with me, and of course we're both not black, but we get to talk about. No,
I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I make really poorly tasted jokes. I don't think people are gonna be upset by that. If you're upset, but come on.
Yes. Like, hopefully we were able to have like very difficult decisions or like discussions today.
Yeah.
And hopefully we taught you something, and really go in and research it for yourself.
Yes.
And like what Ena said, if your black friends are saying something, believe them. Like, listen. And let's talk about what we can do to help.
Yeah.
So something that I found was that you can sign petition, such thing as like justice for George Floyd on change.org.
Yes.
Or erase the degree on change.org, or arrest 3 other officers involved in the death of George Floyd on change.org, which actually has been updated. They did get arrested.
Yes.
So that's a good news. Or you can donate to George Floyd Memorial Fund, or NAACP, and Color of Change, Black Vision Collective, Reclaim the Blocks, Campaign Zero. Or you can also educate yourself, like watching film, TV series like 13th, or American Son, or Clemency, Dear White People by Justin Simon on Netflix. Or you can listen to podcasts,
more educated people, more people who are more educated on this topic.
So like a black podcast that talks about this issue is 1619 on New York Times, Code Switch NPR, Pod Saves the People, Crooked Media, or you can read books. Their Eyes Are Watching, God by Zora Neale Huston, or Heavy, an American Memoir by Kizzy Lehman, White Fragile, I like that one, Fragility by Robin butchering his name, D'Angelo. Or you can vote! The most simple and important thing. It doesn't cost much money. I don't think it costs money. I don't know. I'm voting my first time this year, so I'll find out. But
congratulations!
If you're not, I know. So I'll definitely be voting. Vote if you're not.
Yes. By the way, it's Jun got wait. What is it? I guess he got citizenship, which is why he's voting for the first time. It's not like he didn't want to, like he couldn't. So that's an important point to say. Because if you were like 18 or something, people wouldn't misunderstand. But just so you know, that's why.
Yes, first time voting, but exciting, and you can even vote online and vote in local elections, not just a presidential one. vote in primary election on November 3rd, and don't forget to fill out 2020 census. And yeah, let's do this change,
Yes.
guys. Let's do this change.
We definitely want to do something. So if you don't want to join the riots, that's totally fine. That you shouldn't be shamed for not joining the riots. If you want to donate, you can donate, and at the very least, educate. This video is not necessarily to teach you guys or whatever. We're not we're not your teachers. We're not here we're not God. We're not here to whatever. We're here to continue this conversation, this important conversation, and we're hoping that after this video, you guys will continue to have a conversation, and you will do even more research and even fact check things we said if you like. Totally do that.
Yes.
We're likely to have information wrong, for sure. We're also humans. But yes, please continue the conversation. This is what we want, because this is not something that just ends like really fast. This is something that's been going on for centuries, and it's taken way too many lives just to get basic rights for people who should have already had those rights. And it's just crazy town. So yeah.
And that, I agree. And what Anna said really struck me was that's the whole point of this podcast, why we started. PJ Podcast is all about having important conversation. Whether it's relationship, life lessons, sucking dick, or chatting with your friends, breakup, cheating, and right now what's happening is the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes.
And we want to have important conversation, and we want someone to relate to us and be like, wow, they're talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm not alone thinking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's happening, and that's why I enjoy doing this with Anna. And
yeah, I enjoy talking about Jun and all of you guys.
Blackout and this shit, but you know the situation. I'm having a blackout and light, and I'm talking to you and listening to you, just having that speech just earlier. I'm like, that's what this podcast is about.
Yeah, there's, for a lot of topics, and a lot of people, they might not have someone to talk about. We're talking about Black Lives Matter. I don't know where you live in or what your circumstances are, but maybe you don't have any access to certain information or friends. Yeah, so that's what we hope we can be for you guys. We're basically your friends. We're a family on this channel, and we want to be open, and we're all human, but we want to share information we know, and we want to have these conversations, and there are situations we are going to talk about being gay in America or in the world, and things like that. Yeah, and for a lot of people who can't come out, and maybe they live in a conservative area, whole society, and I mean that is society, but it's depending on your area, maybe you feel like you really have no one, and we're hoping we can be there, and you can know that you're not alone. Yeah.
And when we possibly, but even one person just tell us that they enjoyed our podcast and having our conversation, that's what matter.
Yeah.
And what mattered, me and Anna do this healthy and having a great conversation and enjoys doing it. That's all that matters. And
yeah. It really touches my heart so much. Recently we had a comment. Yes, a comment. About our podcast that was very positive, and it just touched my heart. I was like, yes.
And we'll touch more hearts with permission.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's love.
And
Fuck
we'll end
it.
the pod. Yeah. We'll end the podcast by bringing attention again to the most
Yes.
important topic, Black Lives Matter, and
Yes.
that's what this podcast is about.
Yes.
And we'll come back next week with a whole new different news, hopefully with the light. But
Something, yeah.
thank you for
Hopefully with a light,
Jun.
yeah.
Yes. And this was June, and
Anna.
and this was
BJ Podcast.
okay.
All right.
Take care.
Take care and continue the conversation. We love you guys. All
Love
right.
you.